short for a stormtrooper?
Star Wars is absolute magic, and no doubt most of that magic comes from the fun, bright, lived-in, realistic worlds and characters with their witty banter and a passion for exploration and adventure. But there is another side of Star Wars, a darker side, that starts to be unveiled when we examine people and characters closer. And one of the most perfect examples of how Star Wars can be this way is something we all know very well: Darth Vader's Force Choke. Before the prequels, the Force Choke was always just a cool and sometimes even humorous way for Vader to deal with his underlings. We understood who Vader was for the most part, and the Force Choke was just something he could do, another one of the many reasons people feared him. But why? Why would Vader choose specifically a Force Choke? I mean, we've seen him move objects before without barely moving. He's even choked Admiral Ozzel in Empire Strikes Back without even lifting a finger. So we know he can do it. So why continue to physically lift your hand as if you were actually choking someone? Well, the prequels finally answered that question. Revenge of the Sith had many great moments, but by far one of the most overlooked was Vader's very first use of this method on his beloved wife Padme, essentially taking her life in the process. One can only imagine what Anakin was feeling at that moment. All this new power surging through him, pure power coursing through his veins, and yet the love of his life betrays him. His master stands in the way of justice and victory for his new empire. Even now, while he stands in the flames of Mustafar, having lost everything he ever had, he continues to suffer, continues to be beaten, to be tricked and lied to, and in that moment of rage, he raised his hand and crushed her life, forever scarring his memory. Sith rage is something unimaginable. Its secrets run so deep, the mysteries are still being uncovered to this day. No one could ever truly know what drove Anakin to madness, but the control that it had over him caused him the greatest pain of his life. Infinite loss and sadness repurposed into hatred to fuel the fire. That was his torture. And yet, Sith are trained to learn from their pain. So instead of completely suppressing this deep down, Vader draws on this intense, massive emotion and lets the dark side flow through it. Every energy has an opposite side, an equal. So as much love as he felt for Padme, an equal amount of hatred exists in its place, and, as such, remains his most powerful asset. So when we see Vader raise his hand and drop someone to the floor, feel free to have fun with it, but remember to recognize the great pain of Anakin Skywalker that comes through him every time he decides to act. He wants to see others suffer just like he made Padme suffer. This way, the entire galaxy can always feel his rage and know his sorrow.